Have scientists finally discovered the dream sugar? A sugar that tastes like regular sugar, but behaves very differently inside the body? It sounds almost too good to be true. And that's exactly why we need to slow down and look at what science actually says. Welcome! I'm glad you're here. This is Smart Finds, and today we're talking about a rare sugar called allulose. Regular sugar continues to be linked to serious health problems. Obesity, type 2 diabetes, metabolic disease. This isn't new. What is new is how urgently health organizations now recommend reducing added sugar intake. Some researchers even compare excessive sugar consumption to alcohol and tobacco in terms of long-term health impact. Because of this, the search for alternatives has intensified. Over the years, many sugar substitutes have appeared. Artificial sweeteners, sugar alcohols, natural extracts. Some reduce calories, some reduce blood sugar spikes. But none are perfect. In fact, in 2023, the World Health Organization advised against using non-sugar sweeteners as a strategy for weight control. Not because sweetness is evil, but because metabolic health is more complex than replacing sugar with something sweet. And that's where rare sugars enter the conversation. Most people think of sugar as just one thing. But chemically, there are dozens of different simple sugars. Only a few occur in large amounts. Glucose, fructose. Others exist in nature in extremely small quantities. These are called rare sugars. One of them, identified in the 1940s, caught scientists' attention because of how similar it was to regular table sugar. That sugar was allulose. Back then, the problem wasn't taste, it wasn't safety, it was production. Allulose exists naturally in foods like wheat, figs, and raisins, but in tiny amounts. Producing it at scale was simply too expensive, until modern enzyme technology changed that. Allulose is chemically very similar to fructose. In fact, the two molecules are almost identical. They differ mainly in the orientation of a single carbon atom. That small change makes a big metabolic difference. Allulose tastes sweet, about 70% as sweet as sugar. It dissolves easily, it bakes similarly, but calorie-wise, it provides only about 10% of the calories of sugar. Here's where things get interesting. When you consume allulose, most of it is absorbed but not metabolized for energy. It's excreted largely unchanged. Studies show that allulose competes with glucose and fructose for intestinal transporters. In simple terms, it can reduce how much other sugars are absorbed. Human studies have shown that consuming allulose can lower post-meal blood glucose levels without significantly raising insulin. That's a key difference from sugar. Several controlled trials in humans have examined this effect. When allulose is taken with a carbohydrate-containing meal, post-meal glucose spikes are consistently lower. This has been observed in healthy adults and in people with impaired glucose tolerance. These are short-term studies, but the results are consistent and promising. In the United States, the FDA evaluated allulose carefully. In 2019, the FDA concluded that allulose is safe for daily consumption. It was also allowed to be excluded from total sugars and added sugars on nutrition labels. Because metabolically, it does not behave like sugar, that's a rare regulatory decision, this is important. Even good things can cause problems in excess. Human tolerance studies suggest that doses around half a gram per kilogram of body weight may cause gastrointestinal discomfort, especially bloating or diarrhea. For most people, starting with small amounts is the smartest approach. If you have digestive conditions or use glucose-lowering medication, this is something to discuss with a healthcare professional. There's another interesting angle. Unlike sugar, allulose is not readily fermented by oral bacteria. That means it may be less harmful to dental enamel. This doesn't replace brushing or flossing, but it's another potential advantage over traditional sugar. Now, honesty matters. Most studies on allulose are short-term. They involve relatively small groups. We still need long-duration trials in diverse populations to fully understand long-term outcomes. Allulose is promising, but it is not a miracle. Reducing added sugar remains one of the most powerful steps we can take for long-term health. allulose appears to be a useful tool, not a license to eat more sweets, but a way to reduce sugar exposure without completely sacrificing taste. As I often say, we shouldn't let our diet be guided only by what the tongue wants, but by what intelligence decides. Thank you for watching. I hope this helped you understand what allulose really is. For your convenience, we have in the description an allulose product link, and you can find it on Amazon. I'll see you in the next video. Like and subscribe to follow up on our smart finds.